Thank you, Madam Speaker. And Madam Speaker, I rise to speak on this ministerial report on our electricity system, and I'll speak about a future that is not yet written, Madam Speaker, but will be, by the decisions we make right here today. The Northern Territory's electricity sector stands at a crossroads, and if we fail to act, we face not only rising costs, but the real risk of a system failure, prolonged blackouts, stranded infrastructure and deepening financial burdens for future generations. And Madam Speaker, this is a moment for reform, and Labor seem not to understand this. And let's begin with the reality of where we are headed without intervention. Across the Territory, the electricity system is absorbing wave after wave of structural pressure. We're seeing escalating generation costs driven by rising gas prices and an ageing asset base. A ballooning community service obligation projected to reach $192 million in 25-26, up $51 million in 1 year. And why is this so, Madam Speaker? Because Labor failed to plan for the future. We have unstable grid conditions with increasing solar penetration, stressing legacy infrastructure, and we have opportunities that exist for improvement of governance, where our three government-owned corporations could operate more efficiently to reduce duplication in decisions, which then improves efficiency and reduces costs. And Madam Speaker, these pressures are compounding. They're not isolated. Every year we delay coordinated reform, the risk profile of our electricity system deepens, and so does our fiscal exposure. And this is not just a technical challenge, Madam Speaker, it's a Treasury challenge. The cost of holding the status quo is mounting in subsidies, in lost productivity and growing vulnerability. And Madam Speaker, how did we get here? Well, we had a Labor government that failed to take action. They were pursuing unrealistic targets, knowing that they couldn't get there, and they were throwing money at renewables. And Madam Speaker, we are not anti-renewables. We're going to consider renewables within our grid because we know it is the right thing to do. But we're not going to do it at any cost, Madam Speaker. But Madam Speaker, if we continue with a fragmented and reactive approach, the Northern Territory faces multiple long-term risks. We have reliability risks as our ageing gas generation fleet is not getting any younger, of course. Channel Island, a backbone of supply, requires direct investment to maintain operational life. And without new investment, power outages will become more frequent and severe, particularly in Alice Springs and Tennant Creek. The financial risk of the rising CSO is crowding out other government investment. At this rate, we are locking in unsustainable expenditure just to maintain a fragile status quo. And this is before factoring in emergency generation, network failures or escalating fuel costs. Our investor confidence is at risk. Without clear centralised planning, developers and financiers face delays and uncertainty. Projects like the Bachelor Solar Farm have suffered due to opaque connection processes from the previous Labor government. If we cannot offer certainty, Madam Speaker, the NT will lose investment to other jurisdictions. And we have system integrity risk. With the decentralised rooftop utility scale solar, it is increasing grid instability. And without a system-wide operator, we risk asset duplication, stranded investments and system blackouts, all at public expense, Madam Speaker. And that's why we are doing this work, to make sure that we have stability in our grid going forward. But why must we do this reform, Madam Speaker? Well, it's obvious that the time has come for a coordinated, risk-mitigated and forward-looking approach. This is exactly what we are delivering through the electricity market reform legislation that was introduced in September 2025. The establishment of 𝑁TESMO, the Northern Territory Electrical System and Market Operator, as an independent statutory authority marks a critical turning point and juncture in our electricity market. Madam Speaker, 𝑁TESMO will provide whole-of-system planning, a 10-year regulated electricity system investment plan, or more commonly known as the RESIP, central oversight of generation, procurement and asset optimisation, and a risk-informed recommendation base to minimise future exposure rather than just managing today's problems. Madam Speaker, this is about getting ahead of the curve, identifying future pinch points and designing a system that avoids them entirely, something that the previous Labor government failed to do. And the public procurement model is not just about modernising how we buy electricity. It's about embedding financial discipline and system resilience at the heart of our energy sector. And it ensures that all new generation investments are coordinated, minimising redundancy. Procurement is undertaken at least cost, maximising the territory's buying power. Contracts are structured to mitigate financial risk during high demand or failure scenarios. And the role of TGen is maintained where appropriate to preserve reliability, particularly in our smaller grids. And most importantly, the Treasurer, as the shareholding minister, will approve all major investments, ensuring that they are aligned with Treasury's risk appetite and broader fiscal strategy. And to implement and put these safeguards in, the change must be managed carefully, and Madam Speaker, it will be. We are implementing reform in phases through to mid-2027, ensuring operational continuity and minimising disruption to workers, communities and businesses. Existing long-term contracts will be transitioned under a no worse off principle, and ongoing engagement through the Electricity Reform Task Force ensures that risks are identified early and mitigated collaboratively with proponents. And by legally separating the 𝒂𝒆𝒚 from power and water, we are establishing the governance independence necessary to ensure long-term system integrity, without duplicating functions or increasing costs to Territorians, Madam Speaker. The opposition leader spoke about increasing costs, and yes, there are costs increasing to large users, but Madam Speaker, we are on the front foot making sure that those costs don't increase to everyday residential users. But Madam Speaker, let's talk about the cost of inaction. And let me be absolutely clear. Inaction is the most expensive option on the table. It will cost us more in subsidies, it will cost us in lost investment, and it will cost us in reputational damage. And it will cost us in the trust of Territorians if we allow the lights to go out while sitting on legacy systems that no longer serve their purpose. Madam Speaker, Treasury analysis shows that every year of delay compounds our exposure and undermines future resilience of our electricity generating systems. But Madam Speaker, this is more than electricity. This is about governing for the future and doing what is right. Thinking about the future and our grid is something that the previous government seemed to miss out on. This is about managing risks before they manifest. It's about building systems that are stable, accountable and investment ready. It's about doing the hard work now so that Territorians can rely on a secure, affordable and modern energy future. Madam Speaker, I'm proud of the work that we are doing, and I want to thank all the partners and stakeholders who continue to engage with this process. This, Madam Speaker, is the work that the previous Labor government failed to do and put our electricity system at risk. But Madam Speaker, together we are building a system that is not just fit for purpose, but is fit for the future, and it's fit for the Territory's future, and will de-risk our electricity system and provide that all too needed certainty for Territorians and for proponents looking to come and work with and develop in the Northern Territory. Thank you, Madam Speaker.